You don't forget the sound of a city dying. Fallujah, Iraq, 2004. Operation Phantom Fury. We were dropped into a place already soaked in blood and fire. My name is Staff Sergeant Alex Reyes, United States Marine Corps. I was a sniper with 1st Battalion, 8th Marines. In that godforsaken maze of rubble and gunfire, I racked up 37 confirmed kills. Every one of them has a face I still see when I close my eyes. This isn't a war story to glorify. It's not Call of Duty. It's not Hollywood. It's about what happens to a man when he stares through a scope too long, when every heartbeat is a trigger pull, and every shadow might kill you first. This is the true story of my time in Fallujah, of the men beside me, of the ones who never made it out, and of the sniper war fought in alleys and minarets across rooftops and through shattered homes where silence was deadlier than a scream. This is what hell looks like when it's made of concrete. It was November 7th, 2004, just after midnight, when we got the green light. We were outside Fallujah, camped in the dust just west of Highway 10, staged like dominoes behind armored Humvees and sandbags. The city loomed ahead, a black smoking silhouette under a blood-orange moon. It had been weeks since anyone inside had seen electricity, water, or hope. We knew what was waiting. My sniper spotter, Corporal Dean Torres, checked his gear next to me. "You ready for this, Reyes?" he asked, voice low but calm. He always had that steady tone, like he was asking me to play chess, not enter one of the bloodiest battles of the war. I nodded, locked in. We double-checked our M40A3. Bolt action, reliable. I'd named mine Rachel after my sister, the one person I couldn't lie to even when I tried. Rachel always said, "Do the hard thing first." This was the hard thing. Command had us moving through the northern breach near the industrial district. Our job was overwatch and high-value target elimination. That meant rooftops, towers, minarets, anywhere we could see far and shoot clean. We were ghosts with rifles. As the initial wave breached the city's outer blocks, explosions lit up the skyline. Artillery mortars and airstrikes had been softening the ground for days, but the real meat grinder was just beginning. We moved in behind Charlie Company, building by building, street by street. The city stank of rot and concrete dust. Every alley looked like a trap. Every window looked back at you. "Contact southeast corner," someone shouted over comms. The firefight began. Gunfire echoed through the buildings, a chaotic cacophony of screams, muzzle flashes, and crumbling walls. The enemy knew we were coming, and they were ready to die for it. Torres and I moved to a bombed-out 2-story structure near a mosque. It had decent height and cover. I set up the bipod on a fractured slab of concrete. My scope scanned the skyline, adjusting for wind distance and hell. First shot of the night was at 340 meters. I spotted a man on a rooftop with an RPG lining up a Humvee downrange. He didn't see me. I exhaled, squeezed. Crack. He dropped like a puppet cut from his strings. When I whispered, Torres marked it in our log. "Good shot. Let's keep going." We didn't sleep that night or the next. In Fallujah, rest was just a story we told ourselves. 3 days into Fallujah, the city had changed shape. By then, most of the outer district had been cleared mostly. But the deeper we pushed into the maze, the smarter and meaner the resistance became. The insurgents turned every street into a shooting gallery, every house into a coffin. They knew our tactics. They knew our timing. They used it all against us. We called them ghost houses, homes that looked untouched, but were loaded with traps, pressure plates under rugs, tripwires across doors, grenade buckets perched above entryways. One wrong step, and you didn't just die, you vanished. We were operating in a 4-man sniper team now. Me, Torres, and 2 Marines from Alpha Company, Lance Corporal Stokes and Sergeant Denton. They'd lost their own spotter on day 1, caught by shrapnel clearing a stairwell. Now we moved as one unit, eyes on every angle. We were assigned a surveillance post on the edge of Sector 5, overlooking a narrow junction between 3 major streets. Our mission: eliminate enemy spotters and high-value targets, coordinating resistance via radio. We moved under cover of night. Each footstep was deliberate. Every shadow was a potential obituary. At 0400, we entered the designated house, 2-story stucco walls, blown out and back roof, mostly intact. It looked safe enough. It wasn't. Tripwire Torres whispered, stopping us at the threshold to the kitchen. He knelt, pulling back a chunk of plywood. Pressure plate, rigged, Denton asked. Rigged, I exhaled. We go upstairs. Keep it tight. The staircase groaned like a dying man as we climbed. We set up in the master bedroom, or what was left of it. The bed frame had been smashed, dresser overturned, but the windows faced east, perfect for dawn coverage. We stacked up sandbags and kept our rifles low. That morning we saw our first suicide bomber. A white van rolled through the southern street, engine roaring. It ignored the Marine checkpoint and kept moving. Reyes, Denton said, "You got him?" I sighted the windshield, a man inside shouting into a radio. Another leaned out the window, AK-47 in hand. "Looks like a trigger man and a driver." "Drop them." I fired. The round punched through the driver's throat. He jerked sideways, slamming into the passenger. Torres hit the second man in the chest a second later. The van kept rolling until it hit a low barrier and erupted in flame. The explosion shook the block. Windows cracked. Dust rained down. We ducked, coughing. 2 more, I confirmed. Totals at 3. Stokes gave a weak laugh, and I thought sniper duty was boring. That was just the beginning. By sundown, we'd taken 5 more shots, 2 rooftop gunners, 1 radio spotter, and a man planting an IED beneath a dead goat. Nothing about Fallujah was clean. Every kill felt like cutting off a vine while the roots grew deeper. Torres slept in 20-minute shifts. I barely slept at all. On the 4th night, we heard footsteps in the house. The footsteps were soft, deliberate, too slow for rats, too careful for wind. Torres and I locked eyes. He nodded once. We moved like gears in a clock, silent, mechanical, inevitable. I brought my sidearm up while Torres took position at the top of the stairwell, rifle leveled. Stokes had been sleeping, but now he was upright, breathing heavy through his nose, one hand on his M4, the other reaching for a frag. Then the stairs creaked. Once, twice, then silence. Denton whispered through clenched teeth, "Flash or wait." "8," I replied. "Let him commit." A minute passed. It felt like an hour. The quiet became a scream. Then a silhouette moved, a single head peeking up over the stairs. Not fast, not slow. Testing, feeling. I squeezed. Pop. He crumpled. 1 shot through the orbital socket. Clean. The head disappeared back down the steps, tumbling like a rag. Movement below, Torres snapped. 3 more, same direction. "Flash out," Denton yelled and lobbed a grenade down the stairs. The blast tore through the space. Screams followed. Not dead yet. I charged, down the stairs, boots hammering each step. In a blur, I saw 2 shapes dragging a wounded man. One had an AK. The other had wires leading to his vest. "Vest," I shouted. Torres was behind me, firing in short surgical bursts. The first man dropped. The second fumbled for a trigger. I didn't think. I dove. The shot cracked over my shoulder, Torres. The man with the wires collapsed, his body twisted against the wall. Blood soaked the concrete. Steam rose from their wounds. The third man was gone. Escaped. Maybe. Or maybe already dead somewhere else. "Clear," Torres muttered. He was panting, his hand shaking slightly. First time I'd seen that from him. "Good shot," I said, voice dry. "I know." We radioed in the breach. Command confirmed no friendly presence in the area. The house had been compromised. We had walked into a trap again. We booby-trapped the lower level before returning upstairs, just in case. In Fallujah, there was always a next wave. The rest of that night was spent behind the scope. More shadows, more shapes. A dog dragging something in its mouth that wasn't food. Torres got 2 more kills that dawn, both men with RPGs near the mosque. By then, our confirmed count sat at 11. My dreams that night, what little sleep I found, were all staircases and blood. By the 5th day, we were rotating sniper posts between 3 buildings, in a shattered minaret near the city center. It had once towered above the surrounding blocks like a needle of prayer. Now it was cracked, leaning barely, stable. But from the upper chamber, we had a God's eye view of Fallujah's east sector. That tower became our death perch. Getting up there was a mission on its own. We had to climb through broken stone steps and narrow slits that stank of death and rot. Somewhere along the wall, blood had soaked the sandstone. Flies still clung to it. I stopped wondering if it was from ours or theirs. The minaret gave us line of sight on 3 major intersections where insurgent supply lines were rumored to operate. Command needed them shut down. We were tasked with stopping any movement, foot vehicle or otherwise. Our first shift began at 0500. Torres spotted movement on the second hour, a convoy of motorbikes zipping between alleyways. 2 carried rifles, 1 had a satchel. Bomb courier, I muttered. Mid-20s, black scarf, light build. Confirmed. Wind was dead. Distance was 623 meters. I adjusted, breathed, fired. He fell sideways into the dust. The bike skidded out. His partners fled without checking his body. 1 courier down, Torres whispered, 14. We took turns spotting and shooting. 3 more over the next 4 hours. 1 was a teenager carrying an RPG on his back. I hesitated. He looked 15, maybe. But that weapon was aimed at Marines. I pulled the trigger. Torres didn't say anything. He just marked it. Later that day, the tower shook. Mortar fire. They're trying to zero the tower, Denton warned through radio. You boys better have an exit. We didn't. The second blast hit closer. Chunks of masonry cracked free. The roof trembled. Down, Torres shouted. We scrambled, half sliding through the narrow spiral boots, slipping on stone dust. Another impact. Debris rained like hail. We made it out just before the top section collapsed. Back at the fallback house, I stared at the wall for a long time. Torres lit a cigarette with shaking fingers. You all right? I asked. He didn't answer at first. Yeah, he said finally, just counting ghosts. That night I got 3 more, 1 through a balcony window, 1 setting a mortar, 1 kneeling in prayer who suddenly reached for a rifle. I hesitated. He moved, I shot. 17 confirmed. We were halfway to 37, and Fallujah was still burning. Day 7. I remember it like a scar you run your finger across every morning. We had just finished a 12-hour overwatch shift in what we dubbed the Honeycomb, a cluster of abandoned apartments on the northern edge of the industrial sector. Charlie Company was pushing hard across Highway 10, clearing mosques and schoolyards block by block. We were scheduled to rotate out by dusk, but then the call came in. A group of insurgents had been seen fleeing a firefight near Al-Nazl and had taken refuge in a school complex surrounded by civilians. Reports said they were using women and children as shields. Command issued orders: do not fire unless directly threatened. We were told to assist in overwatch, only monitor movement and confirm visual intel. We climbed to the roof of a nearby bakery for line of sight. From there, we could see the schoolyard sunlight glaring off broken swings, a slide riddled with holes. Then we saw it, a man walking out of the building waving a white flag. Possible surrender, Denton said through comms. Hold fire, I said. We took one to watch. The man kept walking, hands raised, white cloth fluttering. Behind him another followed. Then a third. Then I saw it, the glint of metal under the third man's tunic. Hold up, I whispered. Check the third guy. Right side of belt. Torres zoomed in. RPK. Hidden. I adjusted. They're faking, setting up something. Command repeated no engagement unless directly threatened. Then the second man dropped his arms and sprinted behind a burned-out car. Gunfire erupted. Not from us, from inside the school. Bullets whizzed past our heads. It was a trap. I fired first. Took the man with the RPK in the neck. Torres followed, putting down the second one as he popped up from behind the car. The first guy with the white flag, he pulled a cord. Boom! The building behind him exploded inward like it had been packed with fuel. Smoke towered over the skyline. Kids were screaming. Marines on the ground hit the deck. Denton barked into the radio. They used the kids as bait. Repeat bait. We covered the squad as they pulled survivors out. 2 Marines didn't make it. One was just 19, a mortar tech from Kansas. Never even got to fire a round. That night I didn't sleep. I kept thinking about the white flag, what it meant, what it used to mean, what it meant now. 21 confirmed and counting. Day 9. It began with a lull, deceptive, dangerous, the kind of quiet that made you paranoid. We had returned to the northeastern sector, rotating in to relieve a team that had lost a man to a rooftop sniper. It was our job now to locate and eliminate the shooter. That was the mission: find the ghost and silence him. Fallujah was a chessboard. Every move we made, the enemy anticipated. Every corner we cleared, they had already trapped. But this was different. This sniper wasn't spray and pray. He was methodical, patient. He shot to kill, not to injure. We took position in an abandoned clock tower, a twisted, leaning thing with its top half blown off. It gave us a decent angle over 3 major streets and the adjacent rooftops. We didn't speak much. Torres scanned through his scope for hours while I listened to the silence between gunshots. Around 1300 we saw him, dark figure, low crouch, rooftop across the avenue. He moved like I moved, deliberate, economical. Got him, Torres said. Rooftop, 4 o'clock, kneeling by the AC unit. Looks like he's got a Dragunov. Wind still, range 830. I set up. It felt like staring into a mirror. His rifle came up. We both fired. My round hit first. He flinched back, a bloom of red mist bursting from his chest. He dropped his rifle and tumbled sideways off the edge of the roof. I watched the rooftop for a minute longer. Target down, I whispered. Torres exhaled. Clean shot. Something about it didn't sit right. It wasn't the distance. Wasn't the mechanics. It was that he looked so calm, like he knew this was how he'd go. An hour later, we found out why. The body was recovered. He wasn't just any insurgent. He was ex-Republican Guard, elite marksman, fought in multiple campaigns before the invasion, a sniper who trained others. He had a kill log in his jacket pocket. 17 names, 4 were Marines. I stared at that list for a long time. The handwriting was clean, precise, the kind of mind that made peace with killing. I added one more to our list, 22. That night I didn't dream. I just saw his eyes, steady, unblinking, like mine. After the sniper kill, something changed in Torres. He became quieter, sharper, like the city had cut away whatever softness was left. We all changed, but with him it was more visible, etched into his face like a war map. We were 2 halves of a rifle now, inseparable, deadly, and exhausted. On day 11, we were reassigned to support 3rd Platoon as they advanced into what Intel calls Sector Red, a grid of warehouses and tenements infamous for IEDs and suicide bombers. The rumor was a high-ranking insurgent commander was holed up somewhere inside. We moved at dawn. The first building was clean. The second, not so much. There was a booby-trapped staircase. The point man, PFC Linwood, triggered a tripwire as he stepped over a threshold. The blast took off both his legs. We dragged him out while Denton screamed for a medic. I held pressure on Linwood's stump while he cried out for his mother. We set up in a textile mill across from a 3-story building with sandbagged windows clearly fortified. We'd found our nest, movement top floor. Torres said. I looked through the scope. Figures, shadows. One lifted binoculars. Spotter, I whispered. Then we saw at the flash of a scope. Sniper. We dropped, but not fast enough. A round zipped over our heads, splintering a beam. 2 shooters, Torres said. Coordinated. We returned fire. I took out the spotter with a double tap to the neck and cheek. Torres got the shooter through the window frame. Another popped up, this one with an M203. Boom! The explosion rocked our position. Dust and plaster rained down. "We have to move," Denton yelled. "Now." We fell back to a secondary building, regrouped, and laid suppressive fire while Alpha Company breached. The compound fell within an hour. Inside they found 10 bodies. 2 wore suicide vests. One was the target, Zahir al-Qasari, confirmed by Intel. Our confirmed kill count now stood at 27. That night, Torres passed me a flask. "To the ones who bled with us," he said, "I drank. To Linwood. To the Point men. To the ghosts that followed every bullet. And to the brothers in blood." Day 13 began with black smoke. A fuel depot had been hit by insurgents overnight, and the blaze lit up the horizon like a second sun. We were ordered to support Echo Company on their advance toward the industrial rail yard, a suspected stronghold. The smell hit us before we arrived: burned metal, scorched oil, and something else beneath it all: the stench of death. The yard was a graveyard of locomotives and rusted containers. Every car could have held snipers. Every pile of debris could have been wired. We moved slow, checking every shadow. Suddenly, gunfire erupted from the north platform. Echo was pinned. Radio chatter was panicked. "Taking fire from 3 o'clock. Unknown number of shooters. We need eyes." We scrambled up a control tower for overwatch. I set up fast heart pounding. Through the rising smoke, I saw them: 3 figures crouched behind crates, unloading bursts at the pinned Marines. 3 tangos, one with a scope, all at 200 yards. "Take 'em," Torres said. I dropped one with a chest shot. Torres tagged the second in the leg, then finished him as he crawled. The third tried to run, big mistake. My shot hit him in the base of the skull. Echo pushed forward. Then the mortars came. They landed all around us. The tower shook violently. Torres grabbed my arm. "We have to get out now." We dashed down as another shell hit, collapsing part of the roof. We barely made it out alive. Denton took shrapnel to the thigh. We fought through smoke and chaos to hold the line while the wounded were evacuated. That day cost us 3 more good men. By nightfall, the rail yard was ours. We had cleared another red zone. Our confirmed count climbed to 31, but numbers felt meaningless. We weren't keeping score. We were just trying to survive. Day 15. The sun hadn't even cracked the skyline when the call came in a final push into the old city, where one of the last insurgent cells had fortified themselves in a centuries-old mosque. It was sacred ground, strategically valuable, and symbolically powerful. Command wanted it taken intact if possible, but the enemy had no such reverence. They were using it like a fortress. The approach was a nightmare: narrow alleyways, layered rooftops, and windows that could all hide rifles. We moved with the second squad, covering the advance. The closer we got, the more the city seemed to resist us. They hit us with RPGs from the western minaret. One caught a Humvee dead on. Flames rolled out. We pulled 2 men from the wreckage, one alive, the other already gone. We climbed a stone watchtower across the plaza. The view of the mosque was clear. Too clear. "They're setting something up," Torres said. "Something big." Through the scope, I saw them dragging crates, ammo, maybe, or worse. Then the door burst open. A man stepped into the courtyard with a bullhorn. He began shouting verses from the Quran, loud and fierce. And from behind him came 6 men, fully armed, spreading in different directions. "Coordinated breakout," I said. Torres didn't wait. Taking the shot. Pop. First one dropped. I picked the next. Pop. He crumpled behind a column. The rest scattered to returning fire with brutal discipline. We traded shots. Denton was clipped in the arm. "Stay down," I yelled. Marines stormed the gate while we laid suppressive fire. The enemy was relentless, firing from prayer halls, balconies, rooftops. The courtyard turned red. In the final surge, I spotted a man, older, deliberate, walking calmly through the gunfire. A commander, no doubt. My scope locked onto him. His eyes met mine. He raised a pistol. Pop. My round caught him square in the chest. He fell backward into the blood-stained marble. Silence fell, then compound secure. We had taken the mosque. 6 more kills between me and Torres. My count hit 37. but it didn't feel like a victory. Just another place where ghosts would gather. It ended not with a bang, but with silence. After the mosque, we were told our mission in Fallujah was complete. We'd broken the back of the insurgency, or so the brass claimed. But walking through those streets, you couldn't tell. The city still bled smoke. It still smelled like fire and flesh. They called it extraction. Like we were being lifted out of something simple mechanical, but it felt more like being peeled out of a nightmare. We loaded into the convoy at sunrise. I looked out at the ruins, at the buildings we'd fought to take, at the rubble we'd made. Torres sat beside me. He hadn't spoken since the mosque. "I got 37, I said softly. He looked at me, eyes dull. "I stopped counting," he replied. As we rolled out, civilians watched from behind shattered windows. Some glared, some just looked tired, some empty. Denton was evacuated days earlier. He'd live, but he'd never walk right again. Linwood was still in critical condition. Others, Reed Davis Marshall, didn't make it. I left Fallujah with my rifle, my gear, and ghosts I'll carry forever. When the plane lifted off, I didn't cheer. I didn't speak. I just stared out the window as the desert gave way to sky, and I waited for the war to leave me. But it never did. Coming home was supposed to be the easy part, but the streets were too quiet, the sky too open, the walls of my apartment too smooth. I slept with the windows open because the silence made my skin crawl. People asked me, what was it like? I told them, hot. What could I say? That I saw a man's head burst open through a cracked church window, that I shot another through a baby's bedroom wall, that every time I see a crowded mall, my eyes search for choke points and exit strategies. My parents tried to be supportive. My dad handed me a beer and said, "You did what you had to do." But what if what I had to do was more than I could live with? Torres and I met once after. We sat at a diner off I-95. He didn't say much, just stared at his coffee like it might shoot back. "I can't sleep," he finally said. "Me neither." We didn't need to say more. Some things don't leave you. Some cities stay inside you. Fallujah wasn't behind me. It was under my skin and my blood, stitched into the spaces between my ribs. Home wasn't home anymore. It was just a place where I waited for the echoes to stop. 6 months after Fallujah, I was home, but I wasn't free. The war had followed me back, lodged in my spine, hidden behind every sharp sound and sudden movement. Therapy helped, sometimes, but mostly it was the silence that killed. I thought about Torres a lot. He'd gone dark. No texts, no calls. I heard from a mutual that he'd re-enlisted, said he couldn't breathe stateside, said he felt more alive where people were trying to kill him. One night I was walking home from the VA center when I saw him. Not Torres, someone else. Hood up, limber, hands in pockets, watching a woman across the street too long, too intently. I crossed the street, instincts flaring. My pulse ticked like I had a rifle in my hands. He turned when I was 10 feet away, eyes wide, surprised. We locked eyes. He bolted. I didn't think. I chased. Down an alley, over a fence. He slipped once, scrambled. I tackled him hard against a dumpster, knife in his hand. I disarmed him in 2 seconds. Marine reflex. He wasn't a terrorist. He was a mugger, just a low-level predator. But when I walked away, shaking breath, ragged, I realized something. That chase, that tension, that split-second decision, I felt alive again. And that terrified me. I wasn't healed. I wasn't better. I was a weapon without a war. The final kill wasn't in Fallujah. It was the part of myself I buried to survive. And it's still out there waiting under the silence.